Hey guys, welcome to the Silver Age, and we're going to be talking about what's better, DC or Marvel. So I think that DC's better because the comics and the TV shows are more interesting. Not necessarily the movies, but everything else is pretty good.
I think Marvel's better because I have paid more attention to Marvel than I have to DC. I'm kind of biased towards it. I like the superheroes a little bit more because I know them. Like I know DC, it's just like I'm paying attention to it. And
So I think that Marvel is more relatable when it comes to their characters, but honestly, DC, it's just better because everyone always complains about DC saying, oh, they were born with their powers or they have their powers some way. But when in Marvel, it's more relatable because it's an accident. Well, not necessarily. Some of the most popular heroes weren't born being heroes. And if you think about it, just because someone's born with powers, in one person's eyes, could be like, oh, they were already given their superpowers. But in another person's eyes, they actually had to work up to being a hero. Like Superman, when he was born on Krypton, and he didn't have his powers on there. He was actually very weak until he came to Earth, and the atmosphere gave him his powers, and the sun actually forced his powers. But he wasn't always a hero until he was young. Since he was young, he became a hero as he grew up and started to notice that he cared for humans as well as himself and other people like Batman. He wasn't born that way. He turned his dark hatred for his parents being murdered into a way to stop criminals from doing to anyone else. With the Flash, he wasn't born with his powers. He was given his powers by multiple attacks, depending on which alias of Batman you're talking about.
yeah, I know what you're saying, but like I don't really like it when they have it on accident, when they get their powers on accident. I like the way DC superheroes get their powers more. Just like, in my opinion, the superheroes from Marvel, like Doctor Strange and Galactus. Well, Galactus isn't a superhero, but still, that's all like really cool stuff. I mean,
I think that Marvel, they generally make their characters too powerful. They don't really have weaknesses besides whenever they do humans. Like Iron Man, for example. Yeah, he has a weakness of being a human, but like other than that, there's nothing that really can stop him because he'll just continue building more suits as the suits keeps getting destroyed and stuff. When in like DC, they actually have powers, so they're able to protect themselves in fights. I mean, it may not appear that way, especially on TV, like in The Flash and Arrow and things like that. They're both great shows. I love them. I just don't like about them that they're always getting beaten up when it's completely different in the comics. They can just take down anyone, and that's what I think of how the superheroes in DC are more capable of defending themselves. What do you think of the Marvel heroes
I feel like,
in opposition to that?
yeah, the Marvel superheroes are way too overpowered. Like Doctor Strange, he can like literally like he can just go like make a circle with his hands. He can just like make a circle with his hands, and then like oh, I think the movies are also better, and that's what the majority of people like to see. The majority of people the majority of people who like don't read the comics and watch the movies, they're gonna go to Marvel, of course, because like they're just better because the characters and the actors are really relatable in that like form.
Yeah, I definitely like the Marvel movies more recently, only because, but I feel that DC has presented itself badly by hiring people like Zack Snyder to head all of the things because he doesn't understand the comics. I feel like they should be hiring people who understand the comics more, like in Marvel movies. But the thing that makes Marvel movies so great is they hire people who know the comics well, but also they hire because Disney owns them. They hire themselves good people who know how to make movies, like Kevin Feige. Before the Marvel universe, he probably has never read a Marvel comic if you think about it. Other than when he was a kid, he's never actually studied it like the people who write comics do. So you would you would think that he was just hired because he would make them a lot of money, and as we've seen, they have. I mean, I think that Marvel wins on that stands, but I don't think they win in comics.
I think that the DC movies are a little too out there, like it
You
just
like dark?
like a little dark. Yeah, like there's way too dark. I mean, like
Yeah, it is dark, but once again, that's really because DC hired Zack Snyder, and his original concept was for Superman to go around ripping people's arms off. And Marvel movies have a lot more comedy and are much light-hearted.
yeah, did it ever happen in the comics where Bizarro Superman goes around or Superman goes around ripping people's arms off?
No, there wasn't. But I mean, there was similar dark stories that Zack Snyder based his movies off of, like the Dark Knight Returns comics, number 4. That was what Batman vs Superman was based off. I honestly think he did a terrible representation of what that actually was, because he made it so much more darker as it was already very dark, and there was a lot more characters in it. It wasn't just based around the two fighting, and Doomsday was never in it. It was just the two like brawling it out, but also that was only for a shorter period of time when different people other than Wonder Woman intervened. I think it was definitely a setup movie. Like in the comics, Green Arrow intervened and he shot Superman with a kryptonite arrow instead of Batman having the kryptonite staff and everything. When Marvel movies, I think, are a little bit better again in that stance because they focus on the comics a little bit, but then they go and they completely change the story and make a story of their own, which are great about their directors.
Yeah, didn't Batman vs Superman get like a 20, 30 on Rotten Tomatoes?
It was a very, very bad movie, and so was Suicide Squad. I think the only great
Suicide
movies
Squad sucked.
Yeah, I think the only great movies that came out of the DC universe so far have been Shazam, Wonder Woman, and Aquaman. And I hope Birds of Prey is going to be good, and so same for Joker, even though I don't think Joker's going to be part of the universe. I also hope that the Suicide Squad movie, the Suicide Squad remake, is going to be better.
The director said that Joker's going to be like a totally different universe than Batman, and I feel like Dark Knight Returns and Shazam are the best DC movies.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So I think that's where we're going to end it here for today. Thank you for listening to us talk about this. And bye-bye.